Hi there and welcome to the channel, and it's time for another book haul, and this month it's a combination of library loans, purchases and ebooks. So let's begin by looking at the library loans. These are two novels by Sir Walter Scott, one of my favourite writers. First up we have Guy Mannering, or The Astrologer. This is the second of the Waverley novels. I've just finished the first, Waverley, and my plan is to read them in order and review them for the channel. There are some 30 or so in all, and I'd just like to point out this is the Edinburgh edition. These are the best critical editions of Scott's novels. These retail for £90 each, or $120 US, so it's a real privilege to have one in my possession, even if I have to return it eventually. Then I have the third Waverley novel, The Antiquary. Sadly, the library doesn't have a full set, clearly, of the critical editions. This looks to have been printed about 100 years ago. It says in Philadelphia, no notes, unfortunately, but I'll just have to make do with this. Okay, now let's look at my purchases. First, we have three novels by Jane Austen, the first of which is an Oxford World Classic edition of Sense and Sensibility. I do actually already have one of these, but not just the covers are different, the notes are different too, so provided they're reasonably priced, I will keep buying them. By the same token, I have three Oxford World Classics of Pride and Prejudice, and they are all subtly different editors, different notes, or the text is set slightly differently. Then a Penguin Classic of Sense and Sensibility. These editions usually have the best introductions, so I'm happy to have that. And finally, a Norton critical edition of Pride and Prejudice. Often the type is quite faint in these. This one, however, is nice and heavy, so I'll be able to read it comfortably. Then one more Norton critical edition, Hamlet by Shakespeare. And now we have something completely different. It's four novels in one book by Marguerite Duras, one of my favourite writers too. My review of her, The Lover, is one of the most popular on the channel. Can't wait to get started on those. Then Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm not really into his writing, but I do read it as part of my PhD research. This one is a nicely produced Faber and Faber edition of An Artist of the Floating World. Then Literary Theory, Wolfgang Iser, who's closely associated with reception theory. This one is The Act of Reading. Next, African Writing, Chinua Achebe. Unfortunately, since learning Chinese, I can't stop smiling when I read his name there, Chinua or Chinua, because that is frog in Chinese. When I showed this book to my wife, she immediately began laughing and making a noise like a frog. Sorry about that. Arrow of God. Then another classic, it's The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexandre Dumas. Unfortunately, it is one of those movie tie-ins, which means the cover is rather off-putting, although my wife was saying, oh, he's so handsome, he's so handsome, he's so handsome. Yes, okay, maybe I'll put stickers over their faces. Some more classics here. Arthur Miller, The Crucible, a rather mystifying cover there. Not very inspiring, is it? And two more Penguin classics to finish. This is Inspirations. Never seen anything like this before. It's basically just selections from classic works. I did notice that it has the Jabberwocky in here, printed in mirror writing fashion, which my wife found intriguing. And lastly, a classic from the medieval period. It's The Book of the City of Ladies by a French writer. I believe she's the first published female French writer. Yes, this should also be interesting. And that concludes my purchases. I just have the ebooks to show you, and then I will bid you farewell in the customary fashion. Apologies, but I will have to refer to my piece of paper to try and get some of these names right. So first up we have Tsitsi Dangarembga with her debut novel Nervous Conditions from the 1980s. This was the first novel to be published by a black Zimbabwean woman, and I'm halfway through, and I have to say the quality of the writing is absolutely magnificent. It's semi-autobiographical and just so enjoyable. Next, Friedrich von Schiller, The Ghost-Seer. I'm reading this short Gothic tale because Matthew Lewis borrowed from it for his own classic Gothic novel, The Monk. It's very short, won't take long to read. And finally, To Live and to Write, selections by Japanese women writers, 1913 to 1938, edited by Yukiko Tanaka. I'm reading this to continue developing my interest in Japanese writing, particularly by women, particularly from the start of the 20th century. So there we have it. That concludes my book haul for August. If you have any thoughts on any of those titles, why not leave a comment below? But now, all that remains is for me to bid you farewell. So, be safe, be strong, and I shall see you anon. Nanu nanu.